and welcome to Together Time here at the Westmont Public Library. This particular program is brought to you by Dementia Friendly Westmont in partnership again with the Westmont Library. My name is Mary Ferguson. I'm from the Birches Assisted Living in Clarendon Hills, and my partner Patty Turkovich is here from Aspired Living in Westmont. We're here to talk about wonderful moments that you can spend with someone that has memory impairment. A really brief introduction about Dementia Friendly Westmont. I have the resource guide here, and there's some here at the Park District, the library, the police and fire, the village, throughout the town. Really what this is, it's a grassroots effort to bring resources and education to those that are living with dementia and their care partners. So part of that is creating educational and fun Together Time programs here at the Westmont Library. So we will start out today. For September, we're looking at what we can do here to kick off the fall as the weather starts to cool down and we start to see different things happening. One of the things that I think come to mind, at least for myself, is apple picking time. So here's we have some wonderful apples here. If you've ever picked apples before, it's actually a lot of fun as an outing. There's different types of apples to pick from, and they all have different purposes. But for our purpose today, we want to talk about spending that quality time with someone that has memory impairment and how that really can enhance with different sensories. So certainly color, these happen to be red, so they're pretty bright, and obviously they look actually delicious, so I can't wait to try them in a little bit. But also the smell of apples, the taste, the touch, and again, seeing apples on a tree is wonderful. So again, one of the first things I love to do, because I have a little bit of a sweet tooth, is to dip them in caramel. So here's just a little caramel dip that I picked up at Jewel. This time of year, you're gonna see a lot of these. You're gonna see the taffy apples that are already made, the sheets of caramel to make taffy apples. So you're gonna see a lot of those fun, sweet treats. But when you think about an apple, I think some of us kind of take for granted. I'm gonna cut one here, so got my little handy dandy knife here. One of the things that's wonderful about it is that they certainly all have different flavors depending on what kind of apple that you have. And you could do so many things with them. I mean, I talked about making taffy apples, but you think about if you are a person that likes to make homemade applesauce. That is a wonderful treat. It's delicious, certainly so much better. But even if you like applesauce, there's different flavors now. You can certainly do cinnamon. You can always add different fruits to the applesauce as well. But all of those certainly are surrounded around the idea of making some type of apple, even apple donuts, apple cider, apple drinks, apple martinis, whatever it might be. But again, we're focusing more on having that time with someone and making those memorable moments when you guys are together. So simple things of even just cutting the apple and watching it, as you can see, it's certainly moist. It starts to weep a little bit, and which I always think is a nice indicator of a nice fresh apple. But again, the idea is to touch, to smell, and for something like this, even the shape. And this is a great time to do some reminiscing. As somebody smells the apple, they taste it, what memories does that trigger? And these are great conversation starters that you can have with your loved one. This is also a great opportunity if you have someone, a neighbor. Patty and I on numerous occasions have talked about bring in people that are looking for something to do to kind of give you a break if you're the main caregiver. And apples, who doesn't like to sit and eat apples, dip apples in caramel, whatever it might be. You can, core the apple first, you can peel it, whatever you prefer, whatever your loved one prefers. The other thing that's very unique about the apple is, if you think about it, there are different crafts you can do, and a little bit later we'll talk about bird feeders and wonderful opportunities to do that. You can include apples on that. There's dried apples. So I know I'm kind of going overboard a little bit with apples right now, but I just want you to be aware there's so many different things you can do with it. You can paint with apples, but again, like I said, my preferred method of being with apples is dipping them in caramel. One other option is if you have a wooden stick, instead of the actual dipping is to, I'll even show you this. Look at this. Oh, doesn't that look good? I mean, seriously. My mouth is watering beneath this mask right now. But one thing that you can do instead of dipping it, is certainly to go in and scoop it. So you want to get in there and scoop because it does have a little bit different texture. Again, that wonderful smell that someone can certainly notice as soon as you open this package up. And of course the taste, it's going to be a little bit more smooth on the palate. And that if someone with memory impairment, this having something sweet certainly will instantly bring back some memories because unfortunately what happens sometimes is the taste buds, sweets and salty are what get noticed more for someone with dementia. So this is a nice way for them to interact and maybe eat some fruit that maybe they normally wouldn't, but now that it's a little bit sweeter, it might be a little bit more enticing for them. So again, put it on your apple. You can certainly use your hands if that's easier, but this is kind of fun too. You're almost like you're spreading it like a knife, but without the actual knife. It's a little safer possibly. But again, the idea is you want to create an experience that really is incorporating so many of the senses, which is so important for someone with memory impairment to have that stimulation in all parts of the brain. And so apples are a great way to do it. They're easily recognizable. So certainly this time when you're looking for things to do, if you go apple picking or you go to Jewel and you pick up a bag of apples, think of some other opportunities that you can have with your loved one to share experiences. And I just think apples are a great way to do it. Again, you have so many things. So again, you have your apple pies, your apple muffins, your apple cider. So be creative. And again, you don't have to make these all yourself. This time of year, you can always find vendors that have wonderful apple products as well. So I'm sure you've heard enough about apples right now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn it over to my friend Patty, and she's going to talk about some other things you can do with your loved one in the month of September. So I am going to take my apple and I'm going to nibble on it while Patty is working hard over here. So, all right.
See, you should have brought some salt if you could do a salted.
Oh, I should have salted caramel apple. See, that's another thing. See, Patty's got some wonderful ideas too. So I'll be back.
Hi, I'm Patty. Thanks for joining us today. As Mary said, Together Time came about to help everyone who's a family caregiver or a friend come up with ideas and ways to spend time. As Mary talked about, apples galore. This is the best season for them. It's fun time. There is so much that you can do. You can go, as she said, out to orchards. We are so blessed to be surrounded by a number of different apple orchards, and it just gives you that extra outing, extra socialization, and just different aroma and experiences. I actually love the one that has the apple cannon because I find that ends up helping me get rid of some stress, is shooting apples at a bell. So again, just different things to be thinking about. But I'm here actually to talk more about what other things you can do. So in this season is when we get to start seeing all of those beautiful colors of autumn come to life. And I look at this is also the time that we say goodbye to our outdoor furniture, outdoor living and lifestyle. And we need to start cleaning up and packing and putting that away. Earlier this year in this series, we talked about involving our loved ones in the process of setting up the outdoor area for the season. Same thing applies here. Don't exclude. There's always something everyone can do to be part of the process, whether it's wiping down cushions, whether it's sweeping up the patio, maybe lifting and hauling some things, even just to a general area if you need to specifically put it where you want it to be. It's also a great opportunity for us to get some exercise by raking leaves. I have one family I worked with, and the story still tickles me to this day, that she had talked about we need to get outside and start cleaning up and getting the yard ready for the season change. We need to get out there and rake leaves. And he had glanced out their big picture window and saw all the leaves that were out there. So she went into the back and was getting dressed to go outside, and she comes out and he was not around. So of course she got a little panicked, and there she is. She looks out the picture window, and he's not out in their yard. He's across the street raking their leaves. So again, we need to be careful with our words that we choose depending on the stage where our loved one is. But it just goes to show how hungry he was for physical activity. And so they actually finished raking the yard for their neighbor and then went back to their house and took care of theirs. So again, a great physical activity, purposeful, meaningful work. And I think anytime we can spend outdoors, especially as the winter season is looming in the near future, the better off we will be. So that being said, one of the other things you can do is go for a walk. And this is a great time to start picking up some pine cones, maybe for autumn decor or for Christmas decor. Also picking up leaves that you can take, throw into a jar. I'm going to show you one of the crafts that I've come up with, that it's not rocket science. None of the stuff we talk about is, but it's something that is easy enough to do that everyone can participate in. So, we all have jars from various things we buy, whether it's pasta sauce, preserves, whatever it is. If you were to gather leaves on your walk and just take them, bring them back and tuck them in, and again, it seems so silly, but look how pretty that is. And just that little bit of a touch brings an autumnal feel to your table or wherever you would put this. I'm sorry, I'm trying to make sure it stays in the video camera. Take a little bit of raffia and tie it around, and it's just a very simple but a lovely little decoration that is welcoming the season. Another thing that you can do, and I actually prefer using these fabric leaves for arts and crafts projects, because real leaves, unless you're tucking them into here, real leaves on the outside will end up being a big old mess, and you don't need to be dealing with that. So if you're going to collect real leaves and you want to put them on display, put them into a jar, contain them so you contain the mess. But another thing that you can do with these leaves, and as I said, I like the fabric ones because it gives you more play, is making a luminary. Again, we all have jars, and they don't have to be glass jars for this project. You can keep your Mayo plastic jar. You can use whatever you have at your fingertips, even if you have a supply of preserving jars that you're not using. You can use them temporarily, and then when you need them, you just dismantle the craft you put together. So one of the things that I like is to have a lot of light as it gets darker and darker, earlier and earlier. So I've come up with, you can do this in a couple of ways. You can get Mod Podge and use that to adhere the leaves to the jar, or you can use my favorite tool in the crafting world, glue dots, and just tack it on, and then just keep going over the jar to cover it up. And that will give you a really lovely effect. And we're not going to be able to see it really well because of our lighting, but I'm going to continue and add in a few more so you see where we're going with it if you haven't already recognized where we're going. But this will give you that effect that when you turn on the light, look at how pretty that is. And then all you need to do is use a candle, and I'd say turn off the lights, but then I don't know what would be recorded. So I'm trying to get this in, and you can put in a glue dot, but I think you can see a little bit of the glow from behind, and it just adds a nice, elegant touch. And it's something that you can make these as a craft and give to friends and family. This is something that doesn't take terribly long, but it is creating opportunities for socialization, reminiscing, fine motor skill activities. And I'm a huge proponent of finding things to do that keep people using those fine motor skills. And the reason for that is the minute we start to lose that dexterity, the minute we start losing our ability to do things, we start losing the ability to do things for ourselves. And the key to me is to make sure that I'm staying strong as long as possible and able to do as much for myself as possible. And it also gets into our parietal lobe and our fine motor skills, so we get that sensory memory going as well. So like I said, you could just keep covering this whole thing, and then at nighttime turn your candles on, and they even sell these with remote controls that can make your life a lot easier too if you like. Doesn't have to be complicated by any means. All you need to do is just have different techniques to adhere these so they stay on. And the beauty with glue dots is you can always take them off, move them around, and then it's also easier to repurpose these because you can always pull these glue dots off. So then you've got a fresh leaf again. So many different ways that you can do this project. Going back to the most simplistic of just gathering leaves and tucking them into a jar. Again, I think that looks quite lovely, and it just gives that sense. Seeing a number of these on a mantle just makes me feel autumn is here. So include your loved one, include them in the chores of the season, pulling in all of the summer patio furniture, raking up those leaves. Take advantage of the outdoors while we can. You know, as I said a moment ago, winter is looming, it is coming, and the more we can get out and get fresh air and sunshine, the better we're gonna feel, and the better we'll be able to stave off some of those midwinter blues. So I hope you liked this craft. Like I said, it's one of my personal favorites. I'm going to be stepping aside again, and Mary will be coming back, and she will take over with our last concept for the day. So thanks for your time and interest. Hold on one moment while I clear out. Mary, you're up.
I grab the basket. Okay. All right, I'm back. I did eat my apple with caramel, by the way. It was delicious. Actually, I scooped up the caramel just on the little spoon itself. So, you know, I have a little bit of a sugar high right now. But what to Patty's point is there's so much going on right now in the fall. We want to keep our loved ones busy with productive things that they are doing. I think crafts are a wonderful way to do that. And so when Patty talked about looking at different things on your walk, picking things up, one of the things that I want to talk about now is using those things in a way to kind of give back to nature. So we talk about pine cones. And one of the things that we have done in the past is done pine cone feeders for birds and squirrels. And so it's a nice project to do that we talk about using our fine motor skills, gross motor skills. Things like that are always going to be important. The idea is, you use it or you lose it, and so we want our residents, our families, your neighbors, somebody that whether they have dementia or some maybe even just more arthritis in their hands, there's things that they can do. So with the pine cones, one of the things that's nice about that is the first thing you can do, just to make it even look pretty, is you can just, number one, paint it or spray paint it. So that is a nice option that you can do. Now, you can leave them outside, but if you're gonna do the spray paint just like this, without putting any birdseed on it, I would bring it in because it really is pretty. This could be a nice gift for someone. You could hang it on the door, whatever it might be, but this is pretty. But if you want to up it a little bit and you want to now feed the birds and the squirrels, besides doing a pine cone bird feeder, you can do a couple other things that might be easier in the house. So if you're not in an area where the pine cones are accessible, but you want to do it, you're going to need a couple things. So what I did is I took a paper towel roll and it was empty, and instead of recycling, we're going to recycle a different way. I cut it in half, and what I ended up doing then was taking some peanut butter, creamy, and I spread it on very gently, and we'll kind of go through this here. My first attempt when I was practicing this, I didn't put enough on, and so when I rolled it, it just was kind of a mushy mess. So my recommendation to you is when you're going to put the peanut butter on, nice, a little bit of thicker layer, because when you roll it, you want to make sure that it picks up the seeds. Now, again, I have a butter knife, so anybody can do this. So this might be a great activity that maybe you have with a grandchild or a great-grandchild that's looking to do something. You can use a stick, like I had before with the apples. You can use a butter knife, a plastic knife. So you certainly want to think about safety. But the other thing that's nice about peanut butter has such a strong smell. So for someone that does like peanut butter, that smell will resonate with them. Again, creating memories, reminiscing. Patty had talked about the importance of socializing. Those are great conversations that will lead to interesting topics, whether it's their favorite peanut butter cookie, whether that is making peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, grilled peanut butter and jelly sandwich, whatever it is. Again, that is leading down a different path of conversation, which is so healthy for all of us to have that. If we've learned anything during this pandemic, we realize socialization and engagement is so important for everybody. It doesn't matter how old you are. It doesn't matter what your cognitive abilities are. It's so important to stay engaged. So as you see, I've kind of gone through my peanut butter route here. And then I had some very small seeds. These are easy to find anywhere. You can find it at your local grocery store. If you want to go to more of a specialized store, you can. These happen to be very small seeds, as you can see. And the idea is, again, you want to just roll them around. This is great tactile. Now, you do get messy. So if you're somebody that doesn't like their hands all messy, then you may want to consider putting gloves on. But you know what? The best part is roll up your sleeves, kind of dive on in. And it is actually a lot of fun. I think, I know for myself when I was doing this with my older son, as I'm making my final project here, he actually had a lot of fun. I do think this kind of brings out the kid in all of us. This is also, again, working with your hands is great. I think we get kind of caught up in the computer and other things, but this is certainly going to be an old school activity. So as you see, I took a string, cut it, and now I have a nice hanging bird feeder. Again, very easily done. These are things that I had around my house. I had peanut butter, I had the paper towel roll, and I want to make sure that instead of using like a fishing wire or something that might, once the animals get through with it, I'd hate to leave it on the ground. So this is something, a nice cotton that will be easily, oh my goodness, again, I have peanut butter over my hands, will deteriorate. So again, you want something that's more maybe animal friendly, but you could do this very simply. And again, it has a great smell, a great texture. Even as the peanut butter, I wrapped it up in parchment paper, but even with the seed on it, once you feel it, has a different feel. So this is, again, great brain stimulation as being the tactile piece of this activity. And as I'm making a mess, I'm sure the library's not going to be real happy with me, but I'm going to tuck that away, so sorry, Carmen. So I'm going to put this one away. But again, this was a fun activity. It can take a while. There's no rush. There should be no sense of urgency to get that. But my recommendation would be to make sure that you have a little thicker layer on there. So that's one activity when it comes to bird feeding. The second one that I thought was kind of neat was the same concept of a bird feeder. Patty and I were joking about this. You can have it as a mask, a nose. However, it really is half an orange that I have, I did eat, by the way, and then I scooped the rest of it out. The idea is the fruit part is actually very healthy for the birds. It's like your own little compost. But again, what you want to do is you want to just fill it with birdseed. This one is even easier. Not as messy either because you don't need the peanut butter. So what I did is, I'm gonna, again, sorry library if I make a mess. I'm gonna pour it over and hold it up, but if I mess it up, then it's all over the table, and Patty won't like that either. So if you can kind of hear. So all I've done is pretty much filled up the orange with birdseed. I had poked holes through the orange rind, which surprisingly was easier than I thought it might be. And again, I have some nice little rope that now I can hang it from the tree. Now, I would recommend not to pull this up like this till you get outside because I almost dumped it, so be careful that way. But hang it on the tree. I think because of the situation that it's a little bit bigger, you might see more squirrels, but that's okay. We're not saying that they can't have some either. You could use oranges, you could use grapefruit, any of those type of citrus the birds will like. The other thing is you could also then create, if you wanted, more of a bird feeder with just some of the dried fruit. If you, going back to the apples or orange slices, you could put those together and you could also hang those out as a bird treat. So that would be another option. And then the last option that I have right now is, Patty had done this before, so if you had joined us in our January, I think it was our January, we talked about different ways again to get kind of creative. And this is a Cheerio feeder as well. You could hang this outside. The great part about using Cheerios is that the dexterity is great. It's a great fine motor skill. You can pick a pipe cleaner And again, all you do is you string it through one at a time. Cheerios also are wonderful snacks. So for those of us who do like Cheerios, you know, you can eat them while you put it together. So that might be a nice way to have a little snack as you go through creating something like this. But again, this just happens to be a figure eight. Patty was very creative and she had done a heart. You can, you know, loop these, tie them together and make one long string, however you want to do it. But again, this is a nice opportunity to have that fine motor skill be used. And again, Cheerios, who doesn't like to munch on Cheerios? I think that's one of those, whether you're a child or an adult, I think this is a great snack and it's fun to use. So for me, as you can see, I've kind of made a mess here. Well, you can't see. I've made a mess here, so I will need to clean that up. But I just wanted to thank you for joining us today for some activities that you can do with your loved one as we head into fall. Hopefully, you'll try one or two of these out. If you have any other suggestions or you've tried something and you want to share, please let the library know. Patty and I are always looking for suggestions and feedback. So at this time, I'm going to say farewell. Hopefully, you guys have a wonderful September. And look for us to also come back in October when we talk a little bit more about as we go into, again, fall, but more Halloween and more autumn ideas that you can do with your loved ones. So from Mary Ferguson and Patty Turkovich, who's hanging out over there, thank you so much for joining us today. Together time.